Good morning. In the video today I'm going to show you how to make a tool. Some of these units, like is in this Stihl MS-461, you have to separate the case if you're going to change the seals. To do that you have to use a pulling device. Now they make that device, much simpler to buy one, but I'm going to show you how to build one if you don't have one and you need to get that done. You're just a simple homeowner and don't want to invest that kind of money in tools. You may have some simple tools. I'll show you how to build one. These are the basic tools you'll need for that. These screws, I won't get into what size they are. You need to check on the unit that you're working on and see what the thread is and determine that before you buy your screws. And then you'll need one screw that'll be your tension screw. This will all make sense in a minute. Some assorted washers to fit those screws. Now this threading kit, this is an option. I'll show you a different way where you don't have to have that if you don't have that. This is a cheap one here. I think I picked this up for about $20. It's not a quality set. If I used them every day, this is not what I'd buy. But for what I've paid for it, I've well got my money back. You're gonna need a piece of 2-inch flat bar. This one is 1/4 inch. If yours is not 1/4 inch, you need to accommodate for that when you decide the length of your bolts and you measure. So, a compass, we're going to need something to mark with. We're going to need a marking punch. We're going to need a hammer. And I'm going to use a drill press today, but what I'm doing, you could actually use a regular drill and accomplish the same thing. So the first thing we're going to do is cut us a 2-inch by 2-inch piece of our steel. I'm going to use a 4-inch grinder to do that. That's what we're looking at. That's going to be the basis of our tool that we're going to build. Now we want to find and mark the center of that. We know that it's 2 inches, so it would be about 1 inch in either direction. We'll mark that. Where those lines intersect, that is our center. Now we want to go ahead and punch that, because that's going to be our driver basically. Get a good mark in there. Now we need to mark our piece in our steel so that we can drill our holes. Because what you're basically going to have is going to be a threaded hole here that you can screw your bolt down into that'll put tension here, and your other screws will fit here. And so once you screw them in, you'll tighten this. So we need to lay out these holes, which will not be threaded, they'll just be drill through holes. Best way I found to do that is take a simple pencil compass. It's not the only way, but it is one of the simplest and cheapest ways. And put this here. All we're doing now is we're fixing to make a pattern. And make sure that you're good on all sides. Now let's come back over here. I have found that a piece of manila envelope or manila file folder works good for that. So what we're gonna do is just put our compass down. And trace us a circle, just like that. Now the edge of this circle should line up just inside of this shoulder. We're going to make a second circle out here that should be the edge of this circle. And so to do that, you just want to measure roughly what that distance is. And here we have about a 1/4 inch, but we're going to go about a 1/2 inch just to give us plenty of room. So just pick a side of your circle, come out, and we'll make a mark at 1/2 inch. Set your compass with your center at your original center hole where you made your first one, and move your pencil in until you hit that mark that you made. And then the same procedure, just draw yourself a circle. Now we're going to cut out this outside and this inside. To cut that outside, I just simply take a pair of scissors and cut it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now we're going to cut out that inside. I found to cut that inside, a good razor knife with a sharp edge generally works pretty good. If you're commercial, you do this for a living, you may be best off, if you're getting paid by the hour or don't already have some tools to work with, to just buy one of these tools. As a homeowner, sometimes my time is cheaper than my money. So now, so that we can figure out where we need our holes, we're going to lay this over these notches, just like that. And then if you press, you should get an indentation of those screw holes in your piece. I don't think they're heavy enough for you to see them there on camera, but they are there. Highlight them where you can see them easier. Now we have a little pinhole in the center of each one of those holes. When you lay this on here, you want to orientate these to where that you got as much meat of that metal as you can, while all the while trying to keep this hole centered. You want about the same amount around it. Another good way that you could do this would be to measure that hole, divide that number in half, and reset your compass and draw you another line. Our hole is 1.5 inches, so we'll set our compass at 3/4, and that'll give us a reference line. You see that line? That gives you something to kind of look at when you're trying to line everything up. And then take you a scribe and mark those holes. And don't let that gasket move. That's very light. I have marked those holes. Now we're going to take a punch and put us a good mark. This will help keep our drill bit from walking. And you're going to do all 3 of them. So now we're going to go over to the drill press and we're going to drill out these 3 and the center one. Now these 3 on the outside, you want to drill them a little bit bigger than what your screws are going to be, because you want a little bit of slop in that so that you have some room for adjustments. Let's go over to the drill press. We're going to drill out these 3 holes. So this is our piece that where we're at so far with these 3 holes. We're going to go over and try it and make sure we're lined up. So you want to take your 3 screws that you previously selected that fits your holes, lay this up on top, and make sure that you can get all 3 of your screws in without them being in a bind. And so we're good on that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this off. We're going to go back to our machine. We're going to drill this and tap this. Now at this point, if you don't have a tap set, you could drill a hole through, put a backing nut on. With this model, some models you can't. You could reach under there, it'd be aggravating, but you could just tighten that screw and it would pull it. I got a tap set, it makes it much easier. This is a tool that if you built yourself, you could reuse. So we're going to slide over and drill this hole out. So I've now drilled that center hole. Now we're going to get over here and use some taps, but before we do, if you've decided that you want to try tapping something and you've never messed with that and you've went out and bought yourself a set of taps, I would suggest before you try to tap or before you drill your first hole, you do some research and look at some videos on tapping. Tapping is not that hard if you follow a few basic guidelines. So we're going to tap that now, taking our time so that we end up with quality work. The biggest key to tapping is having the right size drill bit to drill your hole in. I don't want to use the store-bought tool that I have. For the sake of this video, I want to use this handmade tool just to show you that it can be done. Once you finish your tap job, clean your threads good and then take the bolt that you've selected and make sure that it'll thread into your hole. Now we'll move on to how to assemble and use this puppy. Alright, we've pretty much finished with our build, and now I'm going to show you how to assemble it and use it. Take the bolt that you determined to thread and thread it in. You don't want it sticking out far. Take your other 3 bolts and put a flat washer on each one. Now these aren't threaded, so they're just going to drop in. And that's what you should be looking at. Now this part has no bearing on the functioning of the tool, but you've made yourself a nice tool here. You want to be able to keep up with the part so you can use it. So anything like this that takes bolts that just hang in, I like to put a rubber O-ring, and that way it keeps up with those parts and keeps them on that tool. That way when I get ready to use it next time, I know they're there. And that'll keep them from falling out. So let's go over here and I'll show you how to use this. So we're going to set this over while lining up these bolts and get those started into your holes. Make sure that you don't cross thread them. Screw them all the way down. Now while you're looking underneath to make sure that this bolt is pulled in, if you look in there, you can see that our center bolt is in the center of that crankshaft. Now what we're trying to do is separate this housing. So now you want to start. So we just want to start and put some tension to that. And see if we can pop that casing open. You just keep working that and it'll eventually pop open. And you'll end up with your 2 pieces. Now on this side, you also have to have a tool. It's a 2-hole tool. I would suggest that you modify the tool that you used on the opposite side and get you some longer screws, and that way you just got 1 tool for that unit to keep up with. Do it the same way, lay it out with your paper, mark your holes, and re-drill it.